All right, everybody, welcome back. Today we are looking at how do we, I guess ultimately we want to make an asteroid is our new thing that we're going to do today. But even more importantly, I want to find an efficient way to organize all of our objects. Right now we have these bullets and we have these ships, and I have this array list of bullets and I have a loop that goes and manages all those bullets. I don't want to have to do the same thing for asteroid. I don't want to have an asteroid list and have a separate loop to organize the asteroids. I would like to combine everything into one big list that has bullets and asteroids inside of it, and any other things that we want to animate and make work. So, to do that, we're going to make a superclass. A superclass is just a class. So I'm making a new tab. Oh, I thought I made a new tab. I'm going to call this GameObject. This will be class GameObject. And what this is going to be a generic class that will sort of represent all the things that all the game objects have in common. And we can take a look at ship right now and bullet and see what's common. So it looks like in ship and in bullet, we have sort of these things in common, right? Both bullet and ship have lives, and they have a location, and they have a velocity. So what we can do is we can make these classes, like ship, extend GameObject. Extends, plural, sorry. Same with bullet. We can make it extends GameObject. And right now our game object's pretty boring, but what we can do is put all the commonalities, all the common features of bullets and ships and asteroids and so on inside of the game object. And that's going to make our code much smaller because we're not going to have to copy and paste. We'll have like this here and here. All the other things that are in common as well, we can move over there. So, and there's some other benefits too that I'll get into later. So let's start by taking these int lives in p-vector location, p-vector velocity. Let's cut that out of bullet and paste it into GameObject. We're also going to do that in ship. We're going to get rid of those variables from ship as well. And if they're instance variables in GameObject and your ship extends GameObject, then it gets those variables as well. It's going to have these things, and you can add on more. So, the ship has a direction. Bullets don't really need directions, so they're just going to steal all the stuff out of GameObject, and that'll be fine. The constructor for our GameObject, I don't think we have anything too exciting to do for that. We can put in some default code in here if we wanted to. Now let's see what's common. Lives is not necessarily common. We could put that in there though. And the velocity is 0. There's nothing too common between these. So I think we'll just leave our GameObject constructor blank. I could see a good argument for placing parameters in here and then calling the GameObject constructor from our other constructors, but let's just leave it and keep it fairly simple for this project. Let's see what else. Game objects should also have a show function and an act function, and we can put common code that both those or all of the different things in the game do. So let's see. For the show function, they're pretty different. The show function for bullet, the show function for ship, not really very similar. So I think we'll just leave the show function here blank. There's nothing that's common to port over to this function. But the act function's got some commonalities. Look at the bullet. It's got these things here. So I'll copy those because those exact same things appear in the ship's act function. It also has the key press stuff, But what I'll do is I'll place the movement code and the kind of wraparound code, and I'll get rid of that in ship. So far, we've basically just cleaned up our project. Code that is common between bullet and ship now rests in GameObject. And if we ever want to make a new GameObject, like an asteroid, we won't have to code these things over again. We can just extend GameObject and it'll automatically get these things, and its act function will get these things. I guess that's not entirely true. We still have one more thing to do for ship. If we want the act function of GameObject, if we want to get that code in the ship, we also have to say super.act, which is basically call your superclass, the class that you're extending, and get its act function to do its thing. We'll also do that for bullet, super.act. You can add on more code like we did in ship, or you can just leave it alone. And in fact, if you're going to leave it alone, in some ways you could just get rid of your act function altogether, and then since you're not overriding it, it'll just automatically use the act function of your superclass. I'm going to leave it in there just to keep things a little more clear, but you are totally able to remove that function if you wish, and it'll just default to using the superclasses. But I'm going to override it and then just get it to do the exact same thing. I don't know. It's all good. All right, wow, so good, I guess. I mean, that is a pretty big advantage to not be repeating yourself in programming. But let's go and see what happens if I try to run this. I mean, I guess it still works fine, but now I want to add asteroids in. So I'm going to make an asteroid that's going to extend a GameObject. And yeah, let's go do that. I'll make a new tab. Let's make an asteroid. So the asteroid class is going to extend the GameObject class, which means I don't have to type in its location and velocity and lives and all that kind of stuff. So that's great. I'm not sure if I need anything else for an asteroid, so I'll just put in its constructor. And its constructor will basically, I'll just put it as a random place on the screen for now. I'll set location to be a new p vector that has some randomness to its position. And I'm just going to put it across the whole screen. This is bad though, because our game could start with our asteroid like on top of our spaceship. So this will require fixing later on, but I'm not too worried about it. And velocity, I'll make a random p vector as well. I think what I'll do for velocity is I'll just make a new p vector that is kind of pointing one way, and then I'll set it to rotate a random amount of radians. Actually, I'm not going to worry about the conversion. 0 is 0 in radians, as in degrees, and then what's 360? It's 2 pi. So that'll get me to spin possibly all the way around. And that should be fine. And then maybe that way they'll all be traveling at 1 pixel per frame, and it'll be in a random direction. Okay, our show function, I'm just going to do a kind of basic show function for now. I'm just going to have it be an ellipse. No fill, I guess. Stroke white, and I would like to make an ellipse at location.x, location.y, and then now its size is an interesting feature of asteroids. the game basically has you start with some big asteroids, and when you destroy a big asteroid, it creates two medium-sized asteroids. When you destroy a medium asteroid, it creates two small-sized asteroids. So there's definitely some like calculations we're gonna have to do around size. So that's gonna be interesting. But let's not get into that just yet. Let's figure that out coming up. So I'm just gonna put in maybe 100, 100 for now. And then our show function is basically done. Our act function is no different than our game objects. Act function is just going to move and wrap. So I'll just say super.act. Later on we will probably have to add in some stuff around collision detection. So we'll make that happen. Anyways, we don't get any asteroids yet. We've just made the class, so you don't see any asteroids moving around. We can make bullets, that's wonderful, but we would like to make asteroids. And so, as I stated in earlier videos, I don't want to make an array list for all my bullets and all my asteroids and all that stuff. So here's what we're going to do. Here's the new thing that I'm very excited about. Instead of having an array list of bullets, we can have an array list of game objects. We'll call it my objects. Oh, I guess it's not pluralized. And anything that extends game object can go inside this array list. So my objects equals new array list game object. I'm just rewriting our list to accept anything. Doesn't really change the code all that much. So that's pretty good. Here's a bit of a problem though. We're not just showing bullets, we're showing game objects. So I can say this is a game object. It's not really B anymore, is it? Let's rename that variable. B made sense when it was a bullet. Barely. So let's call it my obj. Okay, so we've generified our list now. So now inside this list I can stick any game object and it will drive it. So I can put my ship in there. So I can get rid of spaceship. And I could say my objects.add my ship. And now it'll just be in the list. It'll be one of the things that gets animated. Check it out. Oops. Oh yeah, and now my bullets, when I go to shoot, I guess I have to make that change. It's my objects.add new bullet. Sorry, so I have to make that change in the ship class. So if we run that, hey, there's our ship. It's working, even though I'm not telling it to show an act anymore. It's just in the list. Also, we can stick asteroids in this list. So I can say my objects.add new asteroid. And I could do that a few times. And get a couple asteroids moving around inside of our asteroids game. So this is wonderful that we can create a list that holds all these different objects, because it would be so painful if we had like many objects in this game to make separate lists and loops and all that stuff to hold them all. So this is looking good. In our next video we'll make those bullets actually collide with them, and also this infinity bullet thing is a little bit much. Like I think this is OP, and we'll figure that out for our next video. All right, thanks everybody.